we are coming back yet again after a big amount of time with this Seed of Juna pilot and process. Thank you for coming. Today we got Rubén, CG, Crowd Supervisor at Dneg, R&D guy, generalist, one-man band. Hello, Rubén.
Hey, how's it going?
So yeah, thank you for coming. We are gonna have a kind of talk here about different processes done in Houdini and Unreal Engine inside the process of the Seed of Juna. First of all, we were discussing about this. We want to do a disclaimer. The Seed of Juna is done in Arnold. However, we went through the processes of Unreal Engine and Houdini in the middle of the project. We found a kind of common ground to try these things. So yeah, I mean, if you feel the confusion about is this Unreal Engine, is Arnold, it is normal. We understand the confusion. We are trying to fix it. So yeah, that's the point. So yeah, the thing is, I met Rubén at ILM. We can talk about how we met.
That's not true. That's not true. We met at MPC.
Yeah, we met at MPC. But
I didn't like you at the time. I just avoided you.
When we got this thing. We try to avoid the Spaniards. and I think I saw him around I think I was in Crowd or something like that.
I think it's when you joined Crowd for Ready Player One at ILM,
No,
right?
no. In MPC. In MPC was Pirates of the Caribbean. I think you were around there.
No idea. I can't remember that. But...
Yeah. So I always saw Rubén as a tech R&D guy, and I think he saw me as a bohemian artist, that lazy guy. But the beauty of this is when we start to meet each other, we found that both of us, we got a kind of common ground. He wanted to do shots. I wanted to understand what is behind all those shots. And in that common ground, we found, for example, tools as Houdini or Unreal Engine, ecosystem where artists and TDs and R&D can meet sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, we are gonna have an open talk. Don't take this kind of live session as a techie tutorial step by step, because we didn't prepare that at all. That's the main reason.
But if people are interested, maybe we can organize another one
for sure. Also, have a look to the blog of Rubén Díaz. He did a kind of in-depth process of the Houdini to Unreal Engine. If you put Rubén Díaz Crowd, the Seed of Juna, something like that, maybe you have something on Google. But yeah, I agree. We should do a live session maybe with, or not live session, like a nice tutorial or something like that with the processes. Today is more about...
people are interested.
Yeah, and also, I got down there the question thing. Any question you got, just put the brackets, because otherwise I get confused with the small letters. Just put the question brackets and I can just read that to Rubén or to myself or whatever. Hello guys, hello Sebastian, hello Ashai, hello De Latif, is that good pronunciation? Hello Soran, hello Ivan, how are you? Nice to have you here, guys. So yeah, I think the first thing how this started is quite interesting, because it was in the gym, right?
Yeah, totally. I think what happened is that when we started going to the gym during the lunch breaks when we were at ILM, initially we were just talking about, I guess, stuff about work or the project we were working on or whatnot. But I guess so what you can get out of this as well is that we were not doing a lot of training. We're talking more than anything.
Yeah, it is true. The point was like, yeah, let's get some fit bodies here and training, and it was like 30 seconds doing lifts or weights or whatever, 5 minutes talking, and it's like, I think we should do more training and less talking. And yeah, that we started with different ideas. I think we started even with the idea of a video game or something like that, like an interactive video game.
I guess when things started to line up, I remember this day I was talking to you about how I had been looking into Unreal just for learning stuff. Yes. I was just at the time exploring possibilities. And just having fun at home. Nothing more pretentious than that. But yeah, I had some ideas for some stuff, some projects, maybe mid-long term, but nothing that I had tangible at the time.
Yes, so, I remember that.
And Alvaro was fully invested in the Seed of Juna, but had nothing to do with real time. So we started to see if there were commonalities, or if we could, if for me, what I wanted is something to focus on with the stuff that I wanted to try out.
Yeah.
And I guess for you, I don't know, you tell me about it.
It was that. I mean, we always say that in some way we used the project for another purpose, and it's true that that slowed down maybe a couple of months the entire production, because it was like, okay, let's hold the horses with the production of the project and let's find something that makes sense to use real-time Houdini, different workflows ideas, just to try. And I think that's when we came up with the idea of what if we do a trailer or something like that to put a target in a couple of months, 3 months, I don't remember. I think it was even 1 month. I'm that fucking crazy. I don't remember.
Tight.
Yeah, it was like, it was like, hey, Rubén, let's do a trailer. Okay, when? In 2 weeks maybe. But we got already an excuse, a goal to work with.
Yeah, but that was also because it was, I think it was because of the festival, or maybe it will, but it was a good prototype use case,
Indeed. Well, to be honest, I mean, I think it's public, but we fucking won the Vex experimental with the Seed of Juna test, so it worked. It worked. Tight, but it worked. Yeah, I mean, one of the things also is like, why Crowd? Why Crowd was the common ground?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think maybe you can explain that better than me, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it wasn't necessarily, probably, I mean, it came natural because we were doing Crowd for a living as well. And so we sort of understood more or less what's necessary and whatnot. But specifically, Crowd is a tricky thing to do in smaller projects when you're not part of a bigger company, because there's a lot of overkill situations at times, like big render, like large file caches, long render times. If we didn't have an infrastructure to pass files around, so we had to really be very smart with how we were caching out our stuff.
Yes.
But also the motion. We're blessed by having a lot of motion that, thanks to ILM, that gave you the opportunity to capture there. Normally in a project like this, you don't have a lot of motion, so you don't have to worry about keeping everything organized, tidy, select the motion that you want to use, retarget. You can do all of that manually.
Yes.
But we had a lot of motion.
So that was good.
We had to build a little bit of a pipeline to basically don't waste time where you don't have to. Basically do the retarget, the selection, everything, motion asset ingestion in Houdini, just because it reduces a lot of dependencies and
it is like if you are able to dominate the field of Crowd, you kind of are touching many departments. You are touching layout, you are touching animation, rigging, creature, environments at some point as well. It's like it's a good area where you can experiment with, because that can populate other workflows from there. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird because it is true that in layout, maybe the layout is like the core, no, in any production, like the core where everything is ingested. But however, the particularity of Crowd is like quite close to creature, and I think that was a big thing, no? Like
Crowd. Well, just sidetracking very quickly here, but that's what got me interested in Crowd initially, because it's a melting pot of so many different. Also from the point of view of the kind of roles and the people that get interested by Crowd, and how when you got a nice project, it's a set of very interesting challenges to tackle. So for this project, Crowd made sense, or start with that at least, because it looked at the part of the pipeline that would bring all the motion in that we had. As I said, we had factor motion, so we had to put some order there and make it easier to retarget and do all this smoothly. And then if you were to do something more carefully, you still leave the door open to retarget in a different software package. But Houdini absorbed a lot of the responsibilities of other software packages.
Completely.
Put it that way.
So we decided to jump into that. I mean, one of the things we want to mention, and this is very classic, where two different natures collide. Not collide, like divert, or not divert. What is the name? Like merge maybe. Like you got R&D philosophy that I know that you are not R&D. I know you like to think you as a kind of hybrid of two processes. I like to see myself as well as that. However, I think I don't have fucking idea of R&D at all. But it is true that different mindsets sometimes provokes healthy tensions. Like I wanted to deliver, and Rubén wanted to do the things right. So that makes sense. And I remember like, hey, Rubén, I need this vellum shot. And it's like, yeah, but can I try to do a setup? I don't know. Should I? And this kind of tiny things creates a stress, but I think it's kind of a stress sometimes. For some reason, I don't understand quite well, it is needed to make some projects happen. And this good balance, I was really happy to have him because I mean, we got discussions about how to do the things and how to target the things, and we should go faster. We should give time to do a proper workflow or pipeline. But yeah, I remember some of them maybe with. I remember the thing I always ask you to give me the things raw.
Yeah, that's a common one. Yeah, you were preparing something halfway there, so give it to me already, and I can use it. Like, wait, just hold the horn.
Give me things. So yeah, that was something very, very common. I think we can start showing some things of the videos you got. We can start. I have here, for example. Again, these tests are more like a learning journey. It wasn't something like we know what we want from the scratch. It's like we need to see, and then we can see from there where we go. It's like a step-by-step process with some failures, some successes, some ups and downs, and I think that was beautiful because it's the way you can do a map of what you are going to need in the future. We started with I think the motion retargeting and motion selection. I don't know if you got some of those videos.
Yeah, I got that.
You can share a screen. Let me
let me try to figure out the. So yeah, share screen.
If you can, because maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, so I tried to put some order here, but we can jump around if we need to. So basically, this is just so we don't have an empty screen while we talk.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we're saying that we did in Houdini, or one of the first things we brought into Houdini was the retargeting side of things. And so basically, what's the alternative, Alvaro? What were you doing up until then? You were using
human IK, but yeah, again, you have to go to Maya, have the rig, target, a long process sometimes.
So basically, what we're doing here is like, all right, let's do it in Houdini. Does Houdini allow you to do that easily? Not really. There was a bit of an effort to put that in place, but then it paid off. And the reason for us to do such thing, or to decide to do so, was that. So basically, let me try to rewind a little bit first. So if you were to do this in Houdini without putting anything in place, as things stand today, you would need to use rigs, and rigs are they're not very performant in Houdini as they are right now, because all the nodes have to evaluate on the scene context, and it's really hard to figure out what's going on and whatnot. So what we did is to use the agent pack primitives, even though we're not necessarily using that even though we're not necessarily using that for only crowd agents.
Yeah.
We would retarget motion onto Juna or Okna characters from the film. Yeah. But we were using the pack primitive because it's very, very, very performant. So at this point, what you see here, I was very happy. I told Alvaro, "Hey Alvaro, send me the assets. I'm ready to import motion." And he's laughing already because this test was what happened. So yeah, it was all messed up.
This really wrong.
Just a funny one. Like, I thought I was trying with a Mixamo guy here, and then it all.
Oh my god.
By the way, the idea with this was to have different retargeting modes. This one is using is a constraint-based retargeting mode with some IK adjustments, but it's not using the full body IK stuff that Houdini added. At the time, I think it wasn't available. Anyway, we got it sorted, and then we could have our agents doing this stuff. But again, as I said, there was a lot of motion, and
long clips as well.
So basically, we needed a solution for selecting the motion. We did something, with a smaller project, you probably don't really need to think about too much. But with this project, it became a necessity. I don't know. Can you see this at the moment?
Yes. Yeah, just
So we came up with
sorry, I just want to double check the sound and the image is good, guys. Just to be sure that everything is flowing correctly. If you can say, yeah, sound is good and image is good. I just sometimes I'm worried about maybe the streaming images and stuff. You can see everything good. Thank you. So yeah, you can keep going.
Yeah, no, I mean, we won't spend too much time here, but basically, normally you would want to look at the witness cameras to make your selections. And this is very long clips. You don't want to use all the motion. You don't want to process all of them, heavy scenes, long processing times, and whatnot. So we came up with a little utility where you will see all the capture session that Alvaro did. As you can see his name here, he was actually, don't know if you guys know, but he was one of the bad guys.
Yeah.
So just a little utility that makes it easier. Basically, you provide, I don't know if you see the notes up here, I don't know if you see my cursor.
Yeah, we see it.
You provide the skeletons, basically one for Alvaro, one for Eva, Dean, and Laura, and bring it into this utility, and you can make selections as groupal selections, basically for what we call vignettes, which are multiple agents interacting with each other, or as singles and whatnot. And at the end of this is just, I don't know if you see this, but this is just looking at a small section of all the motion that we have available. But it was a lot of, I can't remember the numbers, but a lot of motion that we had. So it was a blessing. But if we hadn't put something in place to select and retarget quickly, it would have been a curse. At the end, you have some folder structure with all the selects that you made.
Yeah.
Basically, these here are for singles. These are for for vignettes, and you have your retargets already for use. But yeah, that's
that was cool. That's like almost the prototype of having something quite high level where you can just pick up your motion, cut it, and put it ready to go in any software, whatever, retargeted already, like clean for your, even in Unreal Engine or whatever. If, for example, for FBXs that they share the same, let's say like the mannequin of Unreal Engine. No, we can bring the mannequin of Unreal Engine in Houdini, and we can do the retarget there, and we can clean all the motion from a stage to the mannequin and have it all that clean, and the retarget goes through Houdini with the extra tools and implementation you can decide inside Houdini. Now we have, for example, full body IK, or we got like whatever, and that's quite powerful.
Yeah, the idea was to be able to, I'll share again in a second, but the idea was to get there quick, and if you need to invest time to polish, then you grab that motion that's gone through Houdini already. Maybe you haven't touched it, or you have, whatever. You could do procedural things. You could do terrain adaptation. You could do read times. You could do whatever procedurally. That's the power of Houdini. Then you could promote to an FBX file, and then you go to Maya, or HumanIK, or whichever other software packages you choose, and then you invest the time. But you don't invest the time with every file going through.
They asked me where we clean the motion. I mean, that was more like motion editing, to be honest. In the hero character, we use also Maya and motion editor.
But probably what they mean is like the cleanup of that was done by the guys at ILM.
By the guys at ILM in Motion Builder, maybe, I think was the thing. Motion Builder.
That I'm not sure about.
Motion Builder or
there was a cleanup process that came that we were lucky enough to have.
It was already clean, but even if it's clean, you still need to retarget. So we got the motion. I think Arnaud and Laura Miller and Jack help out with that cleaning.
No, amazing. We got of course. Otherwise,
the cleaning needs time. Yeah, it's like we were lucky to see the motion ready to go.
Maybe that wasn't clear. What we were provided with was the motion on the stage skeletons, basically, and we needed to retarget that onto our either agents or hero characters for promotion, and then that's where we went with our route.
But you still need to retarget because you got the skeletons from a software or from a place that is not your skeletons. They are not your skeletons. You need to retarget that motion into your skeletons, and that was the process.
Yeah, not sure if people are familiar with retargeting, but it's as much as a technical thing as it's an art sometimes, because it's it's really hard to have an automated process that covers all cases properly. Oh, the shoulders look low, the shoulders look too high, or whatever.
Yeah.
So we were happy with this for crowd.
Yeah.
But if we needed to promote, we totally left that door open because it could happen that you needed to polish and refine. But the good thing, I think that's worth mentioning, is that we wanted to get quick to Houdini.
Yes.
Because then you could start doing really a lot of stuff very quickly. Like this is a messy network that I had in place, but just to prove the idea. And in the end, this wasn't animated like this, but it was to prove the workflow. Yeah. So basically, the motion had Juna with a foot standing on a chair, right?
Yeah.
So we bring the motion in, we retarget quick, and we mirror the motion. I think we're about to see that. We mirror the motion, offset it a bit, and quicker than you realize, you have already some motion that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Very, very quickly have something better. Then you could have, I don't know, procedural, look cuts, terrain adaptation, whatever, like you name it. You do stuff very quickly, 3 times, full body AK. Again, this is just to prove the workflow. I don't think we went through this route.
For the trailer we use it. For the
trailer, right? The trailer.
Yeah.
But basically the idea is to, I think this is not the one I was looking for.
No, this is interesting. It's like bringing crowd workflows and technology and good practices into animation, into the hero characters.
Yeah, basically because it's so performant, the agent pack primitive, and I think Houdini will end up introducing a similar workflow for doing motion ingestion and retargeting on not necessarily with the pack primitive, but with a high level rig, I guess.
Yeah.
But here we're just looking at the same thing, really. You just bring the guys, you just do terrain adaptation, maybe a procedural look at, motion blending, whatever. I mean, you could do that in other packages, but in Houdini, it's really nice when you have maybe not the 2 hero characters, but you have a group of 10, 20 characters or mid-hero, and you start working, do very like a procedural pass on them, and then you promote and tweak and refine.
Yeah.
But yeah, that proved useful. I think just getting the motion in there quickly. And what was I gonna say? I forgot. Yeah, I don't know. It was.
No, I mean the next step is just to see how we put that into Unreal Engine in different stages.
So basically, so the crowd authoring workflows that we had. I mean, you could use whatever. You could just use Houdini out of the box, or we put together some tools to make it more. So you could have more control and whatnot. But then the important thing here when we were looking at saving out the crowd caches was the biggest thing for this project was to be very lightweight and be able to iterate quick. And there was a time when we didn't do it this way. I think I passed a cache to you a while back with some crowd agents for some, I can't remember the shot. But there's a problem with that because although we saw each other every day at work, you had to wait the day after to bring the pen drive, and that would be the last time I saw my pen drive. So
I will. You have my hard drive though. Anyway.
Yeah, I got that in return. Yeah, I think it worked out in the end. But
okay.
Basically, jokes aside, we were looking at a very flexible way to bring crowd into Unreal, and we're looking at very large crowds. And at the time, we were also trying to avoid external dependencies and plugins and whatnot because we were in a very, very experimental phase. So it was important to let me share the screen again. It was important to be very lightweight again, right? So you've seen this. Some people doing this stuff in many other here. It's just a prototyping Houdini of a geometry low geo version of the agent being deformed by a some data that we're storing in. We could be storing it in any other file format, but we're storing it in a texture.
What we are seeing there in the texture.
So what we're seeing here, yeah, this particular moment is very interesting. So what we're seeing here is like just in the background is the texture that it's deforming the guy. So the guy, that geometry without the deformations of T-pose, right? So by reading that, you're just offsetting the positions in world space, and he's animated, right? So that's all right. So we thought, okay, what could we do with this? So maybe this particular moment where it seems to break, it's very interesting. And we left it here for you guys to see that.
You want the people to do their guesses. Why?
I was using
the watermark.
The free version of Houdini that puts a watermark on the texture. So that moment of distortion there, it's because the motion gets, you see that towards the end of the clip, it just gets messed up. So this technique that's been used by many other people, we thought, all right, maybe we could try this. So basically,
I have a question of Sebastian. Are you storing the bound poses or the deformed vertices in the texture?
We're not saving bones here. It's just purely geometry deformation.
Purely world position offsets. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, it's texture, and there's no notion of a skeleton there when it's exported.
Yeah.
There's pros and cons and a big conversation to have about that.
Yes.
Because I think it's, you don't want to do that in a fully fledged solution. What you want to do is you want to export the agents as skeletons, and then in Unreal decide what technique you use to represent them. So you have some form of converter process. Did you say, all right, my background, 10,000 guys?
Yes, we got this kind of idea, no, of background, midground, foreground. We got the idea of this technique you are showing now as the background guys. Midground can be something that goes through skeletons and joints. Foreground could be even with deformed alembics. That is going to be a texture by Unreal at some point, to be honest. It's the same, but you got more unique motion.
So basically, this was sort of like an experimental prototype for the large numbers that you would expect to have in the background, truly in the background. So because if you go down this route, you need to think about things like budget is a central thing that you need to think about constantly, especially if you go down this route. It's very convenient later on because it's very compact format representation. You just throw to the GPU and it's there, and you don't need to send anything per frame.
Yeah.
But you could extend it and have a per frame version for not being constrained to a tight library set of poses that because you need to encode that on the texture. So there's got limitations, but there's some interesting advantages that we found as well. The fact that we could do for me, sending Alvaro an update to the cache was, hey, Alvaro, I actually sent him on WhatsApp.
Yeah, a WhatsApp. There was one cache that it was a WhatsApp of how many megabytes? Maybe 10 megabytes, 8 megabytes.
Can't remember.
You can store like thousands of agents with some trickery, obviously, because we are talking about the same clip, things like that.
Yeah.
In 3 images, and that was the thing. One of the times it was like, oh, I'm gonna send you this in WhatsApp, and he sent me the crowds in WhatsApp to put that in Unreal. I got already one question from Pablo Cárdenas. How did you import the characters to Unreal Engine 4? I think the people is crawling to see that by Geometry Cache, Alembic, or FBX. Any of them?
Yeah, it was actually like, let me go back to the video of the very, very, very first test. So basically at this point, where the video that you were looking at, it was as testing stuff, encoding the motion of the agents and then encoding the motion of, so what you're looking at here, these weird shapes are the locomotion for all agents and extra information. So basically we're deforming the geometry into stages as a crowd and then as individual agents. And then you have all these textures and you bring them into Unreal. And this is the very, very first test that we did, and we thought, all right, it's gonna work.
Yeah, that was like something, if I'm not wrong, like very late or something. I remember like I drank a lot of Red Bulls and Monster. I was like almost dizzy, working a lot, not knowing how the trailer was going to do. And he sent me this video. It's this kind of a stupid happiness of being a nerd. Of wow, this is gonna fucking work. It's fucking amazing. Look at that.
You see the watermark moment as well there. You see? Yeah. No, but this was just a silly test, but it's great to have those moments in any project, right? Like up until this moment where it's like, oh, might not work, this might not be what we want to do for the trailer and whatnot. But when we got to this point, although the locomotion is broken here on this test, we're looking at performance and said, all right, it's gonna work. It's gonna work.
Yeah.
And then we moved on with. I don't know if you got any videos of you working with the crowds.
Yeah, maybe yes.
I look a bit nicer than that.
Yeah, I'm showing right now, just very quickly. You can't see Rubén, but I'm just gonna describe.
Right.
I got one of the textures, and I was just literally doing my set dressing, having the crowd already there, which also helps for set dressers because they can see where the crowd is gonna be. And usually you work in any company in this way. You do a first row of layout, then crowd does the extra layer, and then set dressers in layout, they do the final pass, putting the plants, rocks. So for this one, which is the strangulation, the choke shot, Rubén just give me the textures. The texture, when I say texture, I don't mean sprites. I don't mean the sprites or 2D textures. I mean deformations file that is going to work in the world position offset plus the location plus the orientation. Let me just show you a second video super quick with no sound, maybe.
I think it's for a workflow that we had. Although it's not an ideal solution, it's convenient to have it because for when you're working interactively, you will render that for free pretty much. Really, it's just lightning fast. But then you decide what needs to look better, and then you look for ways to export the crowd that's gonna be more visible, maybe on a different format.
Yeah.
And then that's where the big conversation starts. So, all right, how do we have an intermediate format that then we,
Exactly. Right now is exactly what I'm doing. I'm just showing the video of the 10,000 agents split in 10 textures. Well, not, it was 10 textures, no? Or 10 blueprints, I don't remember. And here I'm just pointing some of the textures shared per blueprint were the position of the different agents, but the animation was shared by the agents. So again, as you said many times, it's not a universal solution. It's something that...
Plus it was a prototype because that you were doing there, basically having 10 entries for what effectively is one cache, that's something that we would have wrapped around a component that you provide a file path to somewhere, and it does that. But basically it was all it was all pretty experimental, and we got where we needed to. So and for the purposes of set dressing, which is what we're after, I think it worked pretty well. But the problem is that Alvaro wanted to bring the agents closer and closer and closer to camera.
That proves my point. That proves my point. Like natural stupid tensions. Like, hey Rubén, let's put the camera close to the crowd. And Rubén, no, this is not a universal solution. Fuck universal solutions. I want to put the camera, and it's the test you can see in the video I presented in the live session where you can see the crowd very close. And sometimes it's not holding. Not because can't be held, it's because I use the technology shouldn't be used for that specific purposes. So yeah, that happened.
An interesting thing with and then we probably can move on from that topic. But an interesting thing that came from using geometry and not skeletons. Just it's a pain sometimes, but some of the times you realize you can do a lot of things that you wouldn't do otherwise, like dynamic variations. We could do that. Basically, we had all our guys. We had 4. I can show you that actually. Very quick.
By the way, hello from Jan. He's saying is the only way to say hi right now to both of us. Hello, Jan.
That's nice. Hey, Jan, how's it going?
And thank you, Colimator, and thank you, Pablo. Just small catch up. Again, you can put questions in the chat. I'm reading time to time. So yeah, Rubén is showing now. Yeah, the more like high res or mid ground foreground, no, guys?
Yeah, but I mean, I grabbed the wrong video, so I'm just looking for the right one. Ah, yeah, this is the one. This is the one. Sorry. This was just to mention a quick thing. So basically, we have a way to, because all our agents had the geometry lining up that way. We were sometimes doing procedural variation because it was just one geometry or simpler geometry. We took advantage of that.
Yeah.
So basically, what that meant for the Unreal side is that we had 4 textures with the 4 variants, and we could use, basically we had the clips published for every variant, and we could sort of blend shape among them, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
But also things, if you think you had to do some cloth,
yeah,
you get the cloth for free on your crowd because it's geometry deformation.
Yeah.
So obviously every agent with the same cloth sim, but I don't see it as a universal solution, but it's got its advantages for certain things. That's why I mean that if you have a tool set that allows you to have the crowd published in an intermediate format, and then from then you decide how you represent it in Unreal, I think it could be interesting.
No, but it's true. It's just different workflows for different purposes. Not get sticking to any religion of this is the way to go. Yeah, it's like, okay, this shot is, and sometimes maybe the solution is only for one shot. In this case, we at least try to cover the idea of how to bring crowd when it's in the foreground, when it's not in the foreground, how to bring, forget, it's a moment where you forget about crowd or hero characters. I don't want to label it. If it's close, it's one specific workflow. If it's in the midground, it's other workflow. If it's far, it's other workflow. I say this because this system could also work for hero characters, not just for crowd itself. And we use it in the trailer, for example, for some hero character, the strangulation. It was a prototype, but maybe if you use deformation, we are talking about facial animation as well and exporting the caches in many ways, in texture.
It's interesting that you bring that one up because I didn't have video there for that purpose.
Yeah.
But the vegetation stuff that we did.
The vegetation.
It's very similar, and you would think, all right, why? So Alvaro was, I can't remember what you were using. What's it called? Where were you getting the geo from? The
Megascans, the plants, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was from Megascans.
So basically, you were getting the geometry from Megascans. You were populating this shot with a lot of vegetation, and normally we kind of started from the wrong position there because you gave me a cache of a lot of geo that represented the vegetation, and we needed to deform it, but we needed to know which type of plant that was for deforming it in a different way and that sort of thing. So it would have been more natural to do all of that instancing in Houdini because we didn't have all the information on that geometry cache that he gave me. So we had to do some pre-processing in Houdini for analyzing which plant was which plant based on UVs and But in the end, we have a way to deform the plants on Houdini.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I don't know why I'm not showing that.
I was showing the cathedral part, but yeah, you can show it. Yeah, you can show the process. It's cool.
But I'm bringing this up because that was just a quick test with how you can deform, and this is based on an old technique that it's used in video games a lot. I think it's a Crytek paper. If anyone's interested, I think from GP Gems 3 or 1.0. But the thing is that at the end we have so that Alvaro will give me this cache, and then after the pre-processing phase that I was talking about, we had a way to deform it with different noise, whatever. And what we could have done, we didn't do it because we didn't need that. We didn't do it that way. In the end, we didn't need to, but we could have exported those channels as a texture and deform the geometry in Unreal exactly the same way you see in Houdini, or do something more elaborate in Houdini that's more that requires better control or high-level tools to do the deformation. You can, of course, deform that in Unreal straight.
This also leads to the idea of using vegetation tools to do crowd. When we are talking more about vignettes that they don't, at some point, I guess the first step would be to do using vegetation tools to do crowd when you don't need the locomotion of the crowd as a first test. Like someone talking, cool, talking, like a plant. Then the next step would be how to bring that locomotion to use vegetation. Vegetation tools in a flat ground with no terrain adaptation. I think you can do that because at the end of the day it's moving. I guess if it's not moving so much, the resolution of the texture is still holding. I guess the problem is when it gets like 1 kilometer away, so the RGB channels are gonna struggle. But I guess you can use then a way, I hope, or there is a way of just mimicking or mirroring vegetation philosophy inside Unreal Engine to paint your crowds. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, totally. We at the end, instead of passing that information that you're making a texture, something you produce in Unreal. Some people are doing a very similar thing, and I think in Unreal presentation the other day,
with Niagara.
They had the guys from Side Effects. It's actually an interesting presentation.
That's cool. Using a CSV point cloud.
They're doing a very similar thing, but instead of the process of making the animation of the agents is the same or very similar. Yes. But the locomotion, instead of baking it as a texture, they bake it I can't remember the format, but basically as a Niagara. They use the Niagara utility on the game.
The CSV exporter, so you can export a point cloud and then use that information to move the agents plus the world position offset that happens relative to the deltas in the position. So it's very, you can do very small texture, maybe with 16 bits.
They get to the same place, and it's a bit cleaner, I guess, to do it that way.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know. I haven't compared it. I
think performance with these files are in terms of the point cloud, maybe it's a little more that texture.
Not sure. I guess you could cache it or something. I don't know. But the good thing about the way we're doing it is that it lives on the GPU, and the only thing you send to the GPU per frame is time. So for doing set dressing, I don't think you can beat that with anything.
Of course not. I have a question from Pablo Cárdenas. I don't know if you have a video of this. Just let me know.
Not really, no.
Could you know about this? Wait. Could you please show us how the blueprints are interpreting the textures as geometry?
Not right now, because we don't have it. I don't have the file, but we could do.
We can do a video of the process. This part. I have to be honest with you. We wanted to talk about many things, but people is mainly asking about this specific thing.
I guess because it's a very nice tool to have in your toolbox. Yes. And again, one more to have. Not like you would do everything with that approach. It opens the door to a lot of possibilities to do crowd or no crowd stuff, other stuff, anything.
But it's basically a world position offset, no? It's basically a world position offset.
It's all based in the idea of there's two layers to it, but basically it's building a world position offset that then you use in the material entry and it just deforms the geometry. It's used instanced static meshes. And the thing I was gonna say is that because I think that the easiest way to understand that is to go to the game dev tools that Houdini has, and there's an exporter. It doesn't work with crowds, but it does pretty much the same.
It's the same idea. Yeah.
And you export with one of these tools a geometry deforming that a sphere or whatever in Houdini. You add some noise and you export it, and then you bring it into Unreal with that technology. Basically, they give you the material when you export. It gives you how it builds up. So basically, as we build a bit more complex material, but it's doing the same. It's doing
I guess the extra step is how you add to the world position offset the locomotion and the location in the world.
Yeah, it has to orient it in world space and position it in world space, and to preserve precision, it saves a cache with their starting point and then the displacement, just so it doesn't encode the actual world position, because you would lose precision for very large.
Yeah.
But again, the idea is, I strongly recommend to take a look at that exporter if they're interested, because it's going to be a lot clearer than our material that might be a bit messy to look at, to be honest.
Yeah, no, indeed. I have a small question. I think that's more from my side. Did you use any Mixamo animations in this project? Yes, I did. It's not like the main ones, but sometimes as a backup, it's perfect. I think maybe some walking loops, not too much, to be honest. Let's say 70% of the animation or motion capture came from ILM shooting. Around 20% was keyframed, and 10% was like backups, like, oh fuck, I need a loop of walking and running, so a mix. So yeah, that's a small tiny question there. So what is next? Oh yeah, you were showing the deformation or position offset. You got more tests in Unreal Engine with the crowds?
Not here, no videos here to show.
Okay, let me see what we thought about.
We went through a lot of stuff in the end.
Yeah, most likely. I mean, we got some things always like we want to test properly. It is true that for the test we did, there was things that weren't yet. Because again, I asked Rubén, I need something, so I did the shot. In the case of the showcase I did in the very first part of the video, for example, the normals were not right, the normal maps, because I think.
Oh yeah. Actually, I know the one you're referring to.
Yeah.
I mean, well, just to have something in the background while you talk about that.
Yeah. The GIF, no? That thing. So
yeah, for a while we had the if you were looking at the buffers,
yes,
the word normal wasn't correct. That was a problem on my material, really. That was just not calculating properly.
So there was a lot of, I mean, the first time we were quite like mind blown, like why this is working, is when we show the shadows working properly the first time, because again, this thing of what happens in a screen space.
It's pretty incredible, because you get like inter-agent reflections.
Yes.
Like the self-shadowing.
Yes.
Oh, crazy stuff. Like Unreal does all this magic behind the scenes,
yes,
and
that we don't know.
Really... What's that?
that we would like to know better what happens under the hood. That one, for example. Should I say the magic word that no one answers in
what's the magic word?
This is a question. I'm gonna blame you in front of everyone, because every single time Rubén is the one that puts me something in my head, and I'm the one fucking at the end of the day shooting the fucking question. So in every single Unreal Academy year, I've been, plus also in the Niagara live session the Epic guys did, that they are doing pretty well, have to be honest. But there is something that always is in our heads: how motion blur is gonna work for this kind of technology, if so, because this happens with the temporal anti-aliasing, right?
I don't know the details exactly. It's probably some Unreal gurus that can tell us all about it, but it's tricky to get motion blur to work right with when you put it through the sequencer and you're using a technique like we're using. Because if you use deformation, and if you're using skeletal meshes, you get the correct motion blur for free. But if you do this, when it goes through the world deformation, it's a bit trickier. You need to enable something on the experimental settings, I believe, but also the fact that it's sort of an static calculation, so it doesn't have. I don't think it's because it's temporal based. I think it's tricky to calculate it right. You need to do some magic there.
Maybe AI. Maybe I don't know.
Maybe AI.
Maybe like okay, it's a solution. AI is gonna save all of us. We don't have to be worried about technology, because AI is gonna resolve our issues. No worries. Everything will happen. No, it is true. It's something like when you are talking about things, you put the label of production ready. These things always sounds techy. Sounds like why you are so worried about motion blur, but you need at least to have a solution. At least something. Even if we export a pass or a buffer of something that give us the RGB information where we can do a velocity pass or we can do something that may work. I saw some tests back in the day about how to do with using. I think it's not that bad. You only have to check the previous frame, correct? And in the screen space, I guess. No, you can just.
Yeah, because the way our material works, and you pass the time the time for your deformation with every frame, it's static, so it doesn't have a history.
Yeah.
But that could be. That's what I mean. Like, I'm sure there's ways to
do it. Yeah, some way
to
or
do it.
another.
So you pass the starting frame, and then every frame.
Yeah.
I don't know. It calculates.
I
don't know. I'm thinking out loud because I don't have a solution.
Yeah.
In my head right now. But yeah, that's the stereotypical question for every Unreal conference.
Yeah, it's very silly. It's became my fucking surname, motion blur. And I had to be honest. I never been so worried about motion blur. You put this in my head, and now it's the thing when you don't see anything until someone just raised the topic, and now it's like, fuck, I need motion blur. And I'm doing tests, and I want to improve the motion blur. I have to say, in 4.25, this is only about crowds, by the way. Is with hero characters, and when you bring alembics or you bring other you use FBXs and all the stuff, the new, and now I think 4.25 has radial motion blur, and you can do subsamplings, and you can just cook between frames to have this thing that we got the problem. You remember one of the shots where Ogna got the wires, like the tentacles.
Yes,
the tentacles move quite fast. I did a test and it's like, oh shit, this is not gonna work. Why? Well, because the difference between this tentacle here and the next frame is this. So it was glitchy. Now the point is you can have sampling, so you can do like 20 frames between this frame and this frame. You can have a nice motion blur. It's more or less like Houdini style of play blasting that is doing subsampling, and that's really cool. I got some questions here because I think it's a mix of some for you and some more generic. Question: how was from? I can't try your name because I think it's Russian, but I'm gonna read your question. How was the cinematography in Juna done? It is impressive, very natural and alive. Did you use some sort of virtual camera? We didn't use virtual camera. We talk about the option of in the future of using virtual camera, but there was such an amount of tests and things we wanted to do that we focus in more or less in other topics. But it is true that VCAM is something that I'm starting to investigate right now. I tested with phones. Obviously, it's not enough because the delay when you use wireless. I think the way to go in the future is going to be using a HTC Vive tracker. You know, this small device that you put on top of any camera and then you can use that. I think that's a test I want to do, and that's the way.
That's a really good question, and it relates to what we're talking about. That maybe for the final render, you don't want to, going back to the crowd, you don't want to render that necessarily. Maybe you want a higher res, but for your virtual camera that you're using your 5-year-old phone for, you could be looking at the crowd, the texture deformed version.
Exactly. Yeah.
That way you have that way you have exactly the same crowd. For sure, it fits on your phone, but then you render something else later.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
There's a really good advantage. There's a really great advantage in being able to bring it to a mobile device very easily.
Completely. Imagine for a second, like being in a shooting virtual room with 10,000 agents and a virtual camera inside. You are gonna improve the cinematography. Not because you are showcasing technology, it's because you're gonna have a lot of happy accidents and moments of, oh, I want to do this in this way, I want to do that in that way. Also, if you, it's very simple. You work with this where you can just drag and drop these textures that they're gonna have the entire crowd, but in the future, maybe you are able even to delete crowd, even to, trim characters, move characters in real time in the engine.
That's a big one because it's one of the next things that we wanted to do. We didn't get around doing it, but it's really a strong and solid connection between Houdini and Unreal for certain. So you could go both ways, because sometimes you still want to go back to Houdini and maybe do a round trip and go back to Unreal. So you edit your crowd, you edit your vegetation, you edit your set dressing, whatever, and maybe you want to go back and forth. And we didn't have solid ways to do that, but it'd be really great to yeah, if we move ahead, we should look into that totally.
Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, in my utopian world, I think that VFX big companies usually they don't put too much effort, because I think sometimes these structures are so big that always the communication doesn't flow naturally for this kind of tests and experiments, and always here money matters. The client provides the timing, and sometimes you have these ideas that happens more in laboratories or more in Silicon Valley environments. We are not in Silicon Valley, and we are doing movies, so that sometimes is a little bit like, we want to do this, and that's why I think we started to decide, okay, if we can do this in companies, which is completely fair, let's do this at home. But I think the final idea of all this is the end game is creating an ecosystem. Again, we always say make it fun, no? Make it fun,
yeah,
make it sexy, make it where people can enjoy the process in a level of. I was just saying before the live session, there is a book that is called Don't Make Me Think. You want to be in a collaborative environment with the cameraman, the lighter, motion capture with a suit there, some crowd already blocking textures that they are not going to eat the budget of the GPU, and then you're going to do lights, action, and then you shoot your shot and you're going to have happy accidents. You want to change things? Okay, you can change things. So I think that's the future of how to bring cinematography to a new level, where you can bring maybe all schools directors that obviously they don't spend the time as we did inside the VFX companies to go on set and see their entire shot in the 80% of what they need. And then you upgrade that to the final shot if you need it, like the direction of the light, the crowd's position, offsets and orientations and clips, the facial capture animation that is going to be cleaned up now by a facial animator, all these things.
Yeah, but not necessarily only for virtual production, but also I imagine a team of artists from different departments going to a virtual stage halfway through the project and working faster that way. Not necessarily thinking about this as something that you do when the director is there and only then, but having ways to getting the possibility of artists collaborating in this environment, in these virtual environments, because sometimes it makes sense, especially when there's layout involved with something else.
Yeah.
That you need to block the camera while doing the crowd, or while doing the set dressing, or while doing whatever it is. Doing this during the development of the shots, it'd be very beneficial. Yeah. At least, look, I'm thinking smaller projects here, right? Of course, I understand a bigger pipeline. There's so many other hurdles to jump to get to that point. But what I have in mind is us having to redo this again. If we do episode 2, or if we do whatever else, it needs to. Yeah, and you need those mechanisms, I guess.
No, that's the direction I'm going. Obviously, I'm learning through this process, but I think the entire point is also to rethink about concepts like virtual production, pre-vis, post-vis, final vis. You know what I mean? It's like thinking if you can get your shot done there, or at least very close done. So you don't think more about toys of virtual production to make people happy with, oh, virtual camera, that's really cool, oh, and then the shot you are gonna redo it again from scratch sometimes because the data doesn't flow properly. I'm more thinking like how we have to do in order that this is not promotion, this is not something to make it sexy and beautiful in virtual production, this is something that is real. You are gonna get your shot with hard work there, and maybe you do some updates, maybe in your desktop. And to me, that's maybe something that is a little bit far yet, because I get some maybe problems with VPN connection remotely, maybe problems with synchronization, maybe there is a little bit of we feel off in VR. Not all the people is used to use VR. There are things to improve in many ways of technology, but I guess the direction is gonna replicate what was done originally in filmmaking, which is be on fucking set with your actor, the directors, and the guys, the crew working there. And I think people is gonna feel more natural working. You won't just, like for example, the Valve index, you want to use your hands to move this asset here and put it there. And I want to pay my crowd there. And I want to take my camera. And I think that's the point of the potential future. I guess it's not a 1-2 months thing, but I think is the potential direction. Not just because it's fun to be in the VR, more because
no, it needs to make sense. It doesn't need to be a gimmicky thing.
Exactly.
It's anything that it's if you're looking through the camera, if you're changing the camera, if the camera is locked, then it stops making sense.
Yes.
I think to be in the VR context, but it still makes sense to have that collaborative component to it. So maybe I'm here working on one thing, and then you are at your place doing something else, but we're in the same shot.
Yeah.
But then the next level, as you were saying, like the one who's with the camera is telling the other components of the team who are at their home, working with their computers to do certain things and achieve the results. Yeah, that sounds like great.
No, I mean that I see that many times when you work between departments. So let's say the layout blocks the camera, and the animator work with the layout blocking, and then the effects guy works with animation, and everything happens in different time frames. And then you go to dailies, you do the supervision of the shot, and then you improve this and that. You are losing a lot of opportunities there of a collaborative environment. It's like this happens many times in I guess when you even play video games. You interact and you collaborate in real time. Like if I do this, I don't need to put the camera there because I'm not gonna simulate there. Or if you animate like this, my camera maybe is better. I want to frame this guy because he's having a nice acting. And this real-time environment, and I always say this, it's not about...
It's a lot easier with smaller projects, again, just because...
Yes, of course.
It's the 5 people doing it that make the decision.
Yes,
with a big project, of course, there's a lot more...
It's another story.
But this is why it will be a lot easier to start working this way in this sort of... smaller projects, I think.
Yeah. I have a couple of questions here. I mean, I think it's not exactly inside the crowd. It's like how long it took for you to complete the pre-production process, such as a storyboard and etc. It was almost same or bigger than the production. It was a couple of years because, just to be honest, the first year is about thinking the idea I wanted to do. And that took time because it's not just a short film, it's not a pilot, it's also an entire universe. And I wanted to make sure that what I was going to do in a small section, you can scale that up. You can do an expansion of the universe. So that took me like 1 year to write it down, correct the screenplay, do changes, and expand the universe, doing the creatures, the logic, all the stuff. So that took like a couple of years. A storyboard, once you got the screenplay, is 1 week. I mean, it's something that you can get something visual so people can start to work with. Then there is another one, can the simulations and other effects can be done in Maya? I personally use Maya. Does Houdini provides a plus point? Well, yeah, a massive plus point. I mean, it's like we discussed about that Houdini is not just an effects tool. It's like little by little is, opening the scope, of other fields.
The thing with Houdini is that there's certain things that are still clunky, but they're getting up to speed really quickly, really quickly. I'm sure this thing that we did for using the packed agent to do the retargeting, using that data structure for working with. I'm sure they're gonna add something
at some point
soon that allows you to do that for ingesting motion, retargeting, blah blah blah. That will come for sure.
But that's the beauty, that even if it's not yet provided, you can get Houdini.
Yeah, exactly. And that, as I see, Houdini is just it's got the entry point is a bit higher, right? It's a bit harder because if you want to build stuff, you need people that are a bit more technical.
Yeah.
It pays off. The initial investment pays off. Like with the right people in the team.
Yeah.
Each PD is a team of 10 on its own, really.
Completely.
It can do amazing things with the tool. Of course, you don't want to exclude every other software package, but the amount of things you can do with Houdini these days, oh my god, it's
really cool. I mean, that's to me my ecosystem I'm experimenting with is Real Engine as the front end, and then having Blender as the Maya, tool in the middle, and Houdini as a side guy. What is the name? Sidekick guy? like someone to provide all the things I can do in Blender or I can do in Houdini. And connecting these three guys, I think, is something I want to test also because you got Houdini ending, you have Blender Foundation, which is free, and you got Unreal Engine now that they put for VFX is free. So it's a perfect ecosystem to start with. So there is no excuses to be at home and say, oh, I have to pay licenses. Well, I mean, you don't need it. I mean, Rubén did this test with with Houdini. Personal license, and then you can get done. You only have to avoid the watermark. We are inside the law. Please don't arrest us. We are only artists. We need food, and sorry. But you can do things, and Houdini is a really amazing tool to get these things done. Anyway, just if you are very interested about this topic, I think we can do a video more in depth about specific areas. Just leave in the comments or any questions you have, so we can come back to you, either answering there or whatever. Also, if you have more specific questions, I can put now in the description, I can put your blog, because I think you have an about section. If you
I think it's a fairly new thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Let's be honest, it's a thing that is all, but you only put one post and you disappear from the blog. No, but yeah, just because obviously all these techie things I'm not that into that. I don't have that experience. So you have more specific questions, just I'm gonna put in the comment in the description the link of the blog. Hope you liked this session. We will do more sessions, and yeah, thank you for being here, and see you soon. Thank you, Rubén. Thank you for being here. Amazing.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Take care. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.